Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next session of our weekly Spark, Let's Get Real. And as the weeks go on, they're just getting better and better and evolving, and we're getting more amazing, wonderful people on. It's so exciting. And thank God we're having a lot of exciting programs coming up as well, because the beautiful holiday of Purim, the exciting, vivacious holiday of Purim is coming up. So we are going to be doing a lot of programming. So stay tuned on our Facebook page for all those lovely updates. But today we have a really special treat in store for all of you. So the woman sitting on, well, my left, but I don't know where it is in relation to Zoom, her name is Rachel Eden. And I actually became acquainted with Rachel through Facebook, believe it or not. She popped up one day on my newsfeed, and she had such, some people just stand out to you where you don't continue scrolling. You actually stop and you read the post or you watch the video. That was Rachel for me. I would watch her videos and they would speak to me. Rachel is a woman who's gone through her own transformational growth, her own struggles, and she shares them so candidly and so authentically. And what she does is she uses that to propel herself toward growth and transformation. And not only does she do that for herself, but she uses it for others. And she actually started her own company, her own business. It's the Gateway to Eden, right?
You're close. This way to Eden.
This way to Eden. Thank you. So she started her own company where she actually coaches clients through their own transformational journeys. And actually today's topic is called the Powerful You, Distilled and Undiluted. So what Rachel's going to do with us today is share with us her story of how, as she went through her life, she was living a life that was not her own, essentially. And she's going to share that with us. And through that, how she ended up living a much more rich, fulfilling life, and how she's helped other people achieve that too. And just among some of the stories that Rachel has really been able, as I've been talking to Rachel, I've learned more about her. It's been such a treat. But she's helped people evolve through, if people want to look for a soulmate to spend the rest of their life with, and they're searching for that in their life, or people are working for more financial stability, financial independence. People are looking to, increase their relationships and work on that and enrich their relationships. Anything that you're searching for that you feel you've got to avoid or lacking in your life, Rachel helps you to achieve that transformation. So without further ado, I want to give the floor to Rachel. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you, and thank you for agreeing to be here and have this conversation with me today.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. That was really nice, and it's been such a pleasure to kind of start being introduced into your world and getting to know the incredible work that you're doing in your community. And I'm excited about connecting with you and these wonderful people who are going to be tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first question I have for you today, Rachel, is we talked about, living our life, or on your promo video, it's this idea of living our life for the thought of what we think we should be. This vision of what we think, the world is expecting of us, so to speak, or what we're expecting of ourselves. So can you give me a little bit of a background of what led up to that? What created that vision of what you thought you needed to be early?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question. I mean, I'm all about being my own best client, right? So I have to walk my talk, and that's what I'm going to do in this conversation.
I think that's what people love about you, is that you are your own greatest client. You speak it, you talk it.
Yeah, I challenge myself to go out of my comfort zone every day, because I want that for other people. And so I have to be able to, lead by example, but also, and this is where it's going to tie into answering your question, it needs to be that I'm excited to wake up every day and do what I'm doing. So I'm going to now address exactly what you said, which is like, how is this evolution? Like I did say in the promo video, has anyone ever called you a superwoman before? I think that was the question, right? And so for people who may be tuning in, like they might be incredibly busy or feel like they just are so, like the time is so scarce, they have so much to do. And I would just say, like, if you, feel this way, I can completely relate, because I had been essentially spending my entire, adult life trying to create what I thought was going to make me very happy. So I wanted to have the perfect marriage, like very harmonious, not just that, but it had to be so squeaky clean that it had to, we were an outreach couple. My husband is a rabbi. It had to withstand the test of scrutiny, because we would be having tons of company over. I wanted us to exemplify like this perfect golden couple that was very harmonious, both behind closed doors and in front of our guests. Like I wanted to really be the real deal there. So I needed to create, so in my mind, what I thought at the time was, I have to create this image of perfect wife, perfect marriage, right? And in addition to that, I wanted to be like this superwoman, essentially, where I have done it, like I have worked 3 jobs where I'm literally answering to 3 different organizations and trying to, do community work while I'm being in school administration, while I'm working on campus, and all while having the perfect marriage and being the perfect mother, and also, going to the gym and like staying fit and like just like doing those kinds of things, you know what I mean? So
I'm getting exhausted just listening to this.
Right. It's just me too. And I would actually, it was a huge red flag for me, because I would sometimes walk by other women when they were dropping off their children at school. And I would see them just like casually, slinging their coffees or whatever it was, and, talking as if they were just all the time in the world. And I was just like, how is that like, how does someone live that life?
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I still didn't get it though. Like I still was like, I still wanted to pursue my passions, which was to inspire other people. I genuinely wanted a happy marriage. I mean, these were like really important goals for me, right? But it did get to a breaking point where I was going so fast and moving so quickly that I just didn't really understand how disconnected I was becoming. And here's what happened. It all came to a screeching halt when it was at the peak of like my professional success, where I was being invited to travel for speaking gigs, and I was being recognized professionally in my day jobs. And my kids were so dependent on me. My husband was so dependent on me, as I thought it should be, to just hold up the weight of the harmonious, perfect house that I had to like put on my own shoulders. Can you relate to this at all?
Oh my gosh. As you're speaking, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I think what you're saying about the public scrutiny, being in a public position, just adds that added dimension of pressure, because it's not, you're not really just living for your own immediate family and your own needs and your own expectations, but you're trying to live up to this image of everyone else's expectations. And I myself have been in positions like that, and that pressure is so overwhelming at times that, yes, it definitely can lead to that, either however you want to call it, breakdown, like throw in the towel moment of, this can't go on, something's got to change.
Yeah, I mean, you completely nailed it. Like that, you just captured it so beautifully, where it's just really this pressure of this image that you're holding up for other people, but also it's this image of it's a self-created pressure, where I have in my mind that not only do I have to serve delicious food and have my house immaculate and have my kids looking clean and acting nicely and my husband doing this and me doing that, like it was subconscious. Like I wasn't consciously aware of how invested I was in my image. And I mean, I remember still, like we had a neighbor come into our house at one point, and it wasn't like a very messy day or anything like that, but it wasn't perfect either. And I remember apologizing to her, and she just looked at me like, who cares? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So anyway,
like you're almost apologizing for being a normal human being and living life. Like
exactly.
Living life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was apologizing for my humanity. And so anyway, it got to this breaking point where I was traveling and all this stuff. I was invited as a coach on a retreat for women. It was incredible, actually. There was a ton of women there. I was on a panel of incredibly talented coaches. And there was a lot at play in this retreat. But one of the things that happened was I realized how time just slowed down. Like there was 3 days to do nothing but be in the moment. I hadn't experienced life like that in so many years. I couldn't remember. I really couldn't remember when I had experienced life like that. Okay, that happened simultaneous. I'm FaceTiming home to check in on the kids and my husband. Everyone's like telling me, the coaches, my fellow coaches are like, don't worry about them. They're doing great. They don't need you. They were a mess. Why? Because I had created a situation where I was holding up everything. It was completely self-created. My kids were just completely a mess without me being there. My husband was so drained without me being there. And not just like the normal, you know what I mean? Like it's normal when a spouse leaves a house for a couple of days that it feels a little, this was intense. There was no question. My mother actually came to help out and she looked like a wreck even. So like, I just knew something is off. The feeling I had of like not knowing what to do with this abundance of time and seeing my family going sideways because of me not being there. Anyways, it was definitely a moment of revelation for me. I came home. It's still somehow, I was not able to connect the dots. I knew something was off, but I just didn't know what was going on yet. But you know what's really fascinating, and this is what I do in my work, is even though like intellectually we might not know what the problem is because we feed ourselves all these stories, like I'm doing everything right. I'm checking all the boxes of being a good person and like helping other people. Yeah. But on some deeper level, we know. And I basically was feeling miserable and disconnected from everything. The only way I can describe it to you, and I really haven't heard anybody else describing something like this before. I've spoken to a lot of people at this point about it. It was kind of like I looked around at my life, my family, my job, like even the kids, and they seemed great. I was like, this is awesome. What a nice life this is, right? Like the kids are so sweet and cute. And like, this is a nice guy, I have a husband, and my jobs seem wonderful, but they just didn't feel like mine. I felt really disconnected.
Almost like you were outside looking in on another person's life.
Not almost. That's exactly what it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah. It was terrifying. And to have that feeling inside of myself and the pressure of holding up an image, which meant in order to protect my marriage, I didn't dare tell my husband what I was feeling. I wanted my marriage beautiful, harmonious. I didn't want it marred with any ugliness of my, feelings.
Struggle or
right. Yeah. So I would go into work. I would do what I was supposed to do. I would help the kids at home with their homework and dinner and bath. I would do the things I was always doing, working and stuff like that. But something was very wrong on the inside. And I didn't really know what was going to happen. I was searching. I was trying to speak with people who I trusted. And I couldn't even articulate it. And you know what was crazy? People said, like one person in particular who had been a mentor of mine for a while, she really didn't see, because I had created such a standard for like, I'm successful, I'm doing it all, like I'm a powerhouse. She really didn't understand the depth of where my struggle was. And I probably wasn't even, to be fair, I wasn't even willing to fully be transparent about it. I wasn't ready. And she was like, just go home, have some chocolate, you'll be fine.
Oh my gosh. That's probably like the most dismissive feeling that you can get when you're having this turmoil going on inside you and someone's like, you got this. You got this. You're good.
And you know what? It confirmed that I'm supposed to be holding up an image.
Right.
Like, no, like the world cannot accept that I'm going to be crumbling. I need to just hold up this image.
Did you ever, through this whole process, feel like almost guilty that you were feeling this dissatisfaction? Like, I've got it so good. I got these beautiful kids, this great husband, this wonderful job. Like, why am I feeling dissatisfied? Almost like there's this like, you're not feeling good about this dissatisfaction in that sense. Like you don't have a right to be feeling it. Does that come up towards?
100%. I had so much shame around it that I was feeling like that. And and even more than that, I was so confused about where it was coming from, why it was happening. It didn't make sense. Like you said, like everything looks so nice. Why aren't I just being happy about it and like maintaining my life? It was as if I had changed and my life hadn't. And that is essentially what was going on, but I just didn't know it at the time. you know? And so you talk about like a caterpillar going through the process of becoming a butterfly, but what people don't realize is that like, it's painful. It's incredibly uncomfortable. There's a lot of friction. They become like a jelly like substance, and like, you know, they completely, you know, that feeling of being in it, of inside that transformation can be incredibly painful. And it was a very painful time. And so it came to a point where I was looking to like get out of my house, you know, not again, never breathing a word of this to anybody, but like I would I was going to the gym every day. Like I went from going a couple times a week to make religiously going every single day, but for the wrong reasons, like just to get out of the house, you know?
Right.
I would go to the store and get food just so that I could, I mean, now during Corona, everyone's doing that, but like at the
To
time it
escape.
wasn't
You
that way.
wanted to escape the pain that you were
Yes.
feeling at that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is exactly what I wasn't supposed to be doing. I wasn't supposed, we escape, we want to escape our pain. We want to not look at our pain, but in hindsight, I see now, had I just been able to feel my pain, give myself that permission to feel that pain, the whole process would have been accelerated. Anyway, it was not meant to be.
There's one comment that a very wise person once told me. She's like, you have to learn to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You gotta embrace it. And once you embrace it, like, this is not fun, this does not feel good, but I can be in it and work through it. That's when the beginning starts to evolve and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. But as people, we're always, it's the suck, so to speak, the pain is so great that we just want to run so fast and so quickly away from it and not go through it. So
100%.
it's
100%.
resonating with me big time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great mantra. I think part of the problem with, like, I think part of the struggle for most people is they don't even see that that's a possibility, because what they see, so like when someone comes to me, potentially there's two reasons someone might come to me. One is they have a big vision that they want to accomplish, and the other is they are really struggling with something that they want to get over. So if it's the latter, if they're trying to struggle with something, they don't even see that there's a suck that they need to embrace, because what they see is that they've gained 40 pounds and they don't know why they're eating so much, or they don't know why they are fighting with their husband and it's like cats and dogs in the house and they've never had the marriage that they want and they don't know why it's like this, or they don't know why they're not getting the dates that they were hoping for, or their job is not helping propel them to the next level of promotion, or why they can't just summon the courage to start their own business. You know, all those things.
Yes.
That's the story they see, that surface story. It's underneath it where it's like, oh, you mean I was doing all this stuff to avoid pain?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess what like makes the pain even worse is that they're just not even aware of all what's going on within them. They're just lost and confused, and the what now? Like, what now? I just want to get out and I don't know, and I don't have a direction, and ouch.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, getting back to your journey. So
Yeah.
like you okay, so you said you came back from this conference, this retreat, and then you noticed the sort of the dichotomy of your family falling apart and this image that you had to uphold, and you knew that there's something not right, something imbalanced, I guess that might be the right a word we can use.
Yeah.
So once you realized this, what allowed you to get to the next step where
okay, so yeah,
you started to feel like, oh, okay, like that, a sense of where was the sort of the light? Where did that emerge from all
okay, yeah, for sure. And I the only reason I want to stretch out the darkness is because there was a lot of it, and I want to make sure that anybody who's listening understands that they could be in a period of darkness for a long time before they get to that light. So just as like a way to give closure to it, I'll say that, you know, I was, first of all, exhausted, but the other one is I felt like something was missing. Like I wasn't being seen. As visible as I was to the community and to my family and my work, I didn't feel like I was being seen. And it was this really crazy dichotomy. And so I desperately wanted that. And that was kind of, and that stretched out for a very long time, several months, you know, several months. And I think for me, the turning point from darkness to light it was a date night. I went out with my husband, and the date nights, by the way, were so twisted. Like, it wasn't about going out with my husband and bonding. It was about me getting out from my life and just we had to go anywhere as long as it was new and I hadn't been there before. Like, I just needed to be out. And at this point, like, I've been in this rut for quite a long time, many, many months. Maybe I haven't actually done a count, probably close to like 9 months or something like that. It was a long time. And my husband turned to me and he said, I really don't recognize you anymore. And that moment was so powerful because I had thought I was doing such a good job of creating a cover, of being this woman who he knew was like the good wife. That good wife. I thought that I was doing such a good job of creating that and checking that box. So when he said that, it was like, gut punch.
So can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
When he said, I don't recognize you anymore, do you think that was coming from a negative place? Like, I don't recognize you in a good way, like I'm appreciating the change? Or was it coming from, oh, this is scary for me. Like, you're turning into a new person and I'm not sure I like this new person, or I know this, and the change was coming from a place of fear for him.
Fear, for sure. Fear. He was like, okay. Yeah, absolutely. He was just like, it was coming from a place of, who are you? Like, I thought we had an agreement here of like who you are and who I am and what was happening, what made you happy. Like, it was a time for such a long time that like that outreach work, for example, was the thing I lived and breathed and made me happy. Like, why was that suddenly not? Why did I not seem to be thriving? And I didn't even understand that he was perceptively picking up on something when I had been working so hard to keep up an act. So everything really crumbled. That whole image that I was trying to create really crumbled when he said that. And I didn't know how to answer. But I think so. I said something like, that's the problem. I need you to be able to see that I'm more than the good wife. Yeah. I need to be more than the good wife. Okay. And here's the thing that happened in my marriage as a result of this interaction that took 2 minutes. My marriage became, instead of about having harmony being the highest value, something much greater happened where self-actualization and authenticity became the highest value.
Wow.
It was a really big transformational moment. And I don't know if every marriage goes through that. I don't know if every marriage goes through a space of like being invested in like, let's have a nice harmonious interaction day to day, to a place of like, we get to be human beings here. And that means, what I experience this with a lot of people. Everyone who comes to me with like struggles in their marriage loves their husband. Everyone loves their husband and they want to nurture their husband. It seems like love and nurture comes really effortlessly. What does not come effortlessly is acceptance. Acceptance of ourselves and acceptance of our spouses and kids and people in the world.
Right.
But acceptance is like a much harder earned commodity.
Right. I want to go back to something you said. You said that up until that point, harmony was the greatest value in your marriage. And then it became authenticity and self-actualization. So I'm going down a thought process here, and tell me what you think. This is getting me to really think that the reason why authenticity is so important is because if we're not our true selves, then this marriage that we've been trying to achieve harmony with is really an empty shell. It's not a real substance. And we're investing so much energy and so much of our nurturing and so much of our love into something that could come crumbling down any moment because we're not showing up as ourselves. We're being something that we're not. So I guess in order for us to have a true, long-lasting, real relationship, we can't be afraid to be all of us.
Yes.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
It's not a disservice to the relationship, but it's the only way to the relationship.
Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that when someone does come to me about a relationship issue, specifically in a marriage, I do see that in addition to whatever's going on the surface, there's a deep level of not accepting their spouse. And so in that moment, at that time with my husband, I really needed my spouse to accept me. And it was the first time in my marriage I showed up, where I really showed up. And I said,
For yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And look, I mean, there's a continuum here. Like my first year of marriage, I would spend hours and hours with him trying to establish this harmonious image, right? And I kept having this nagging feeling in my first year of marriage that it was a house of cards, and I didn't know why. I couldn't figure it out. We were working really hard. You can work so hard on it and not realize what's missing for a long time. That's why it really does help to have another set of eyes say, wait a second, there's a blind spot here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what you said is 100% true. It's terrifying to hear it that way, that you can spend a lifetime potentially building something, working really hard with someone, and the entire time you never actually put yourself in the house that you built.
Yeah. Wow. So this conversation you had with your husband was the big aha moment for you.
That was the big aha moment. Yeah. It didn't feel like a nice aha moment. It was a devastating moment.
I can imagine. Imagine. But sometimes when you hit that place of devastation, like, okay, I did it. I survived.
Yeah.
Now we can start to build.
Yes.
Did he see it as an aha moment? He
had no idea.
He had no idea yet.
No, he had no idea how transformational that interaction was for me. And I mean, I've told him subsequently, like, that changed everything. But here's what he did see after that conversation. I would say to him things, look, my husband, just so you have the context, he loves when I talk about him, sarcasm, but he gives me permission, so it's okay. He is someone who's very your stereotypical man in the sense that like expression around emotion is not something that he doesn't have to work at. He has to work at expression and emotion, right? So for me, when I come to him and I say, after that interaction, I would say to him something like, you need to sit down. I'm about to come to you. I'm going to cry to you. I'm going to tell you a lot of messy thoughts. It's going to be a stream of consciousness time. It's okay. Don't worry. Like, there's no pressure on you. I don't need you to rub my back. I don't need you to say, oh, they're there. I don't need you to fix what I'm talking about. Really, you can even think I'm crazy. I don't mind. But I need for myself in this marriage, and this is where self-actualization comes in, I need to show up. I need to be honest about what I'm feeling to you. I need to share with you my ugly truth. And so I did that a lot in the next months that followed. I would sit him down a lot, and he was there for me. What I mean by that is he showed up. He sat there and he listened, and he responded as he knew how to do. And that's all I needed. Right. And I didn't have any expectation of anything else, because the only expectation I had was of myself.
Right.
I'm going to show up authentically.
Because it wasn't about him. It's about you learning to accept you.
Yes.
And that's the only thing we ever really truly have control over to affect any change on.
Yes.
That's amazing. So how did this house of cards crumbling down play out in other areas of your world besides your marriage? Did it play out in your work, how did that translate?
I think that essentially I was doing the same thing in my marriage I was doing in my job, which was doubling down on creating that image at work. So for example, at night, I would be teaching classes to college students, and I would come and show up, and it didn't really matter if my heart was in it or not in it. But I would just make sure I showed up and did my thing. And I don't regret that. I don't regret that. It would have been great to shut down everything in my life and just, be nurturing myself. But short of that, showing up for your commitments, I think is a good thing. That when I got to a place of light, I started to leverage my pain as a way of sharing and connecting with the people I was involved with. So I wouldn't share, and here's the distinction that's really important that I talk to a lot of colleagues about, because if you're in a leadership position, there's this fine line between vulnerability and coming to a place of, is this person okay? Like, You know, you
Does
don't
she have
want,
it together?
you're right. Does she have it together?
Right.
So on the one hand, you don't want to feel this like I have to have it together. That's not healthy. But on the other hand, there does need to be this feeling like I think you need to own it. You have to have processed your pain a little bit in order to share it.
Yeah.
So I did that. I mean, by the time it got to a lighter place where I was ugly crying to my husband about my crazy thoughts and stuff like that, I was able to use my pain as what I spoke about into the world. The other big drastic thing I did was I just quit 90% of my commitments if I was able to. So if I had already made a commitment, I would honor it. But if there was something I was able to step down from or not renew a contract, for example, I would. I started just working my one day job. I still, like, any commitments I had made for speaking or teaching, I kept, but I didn't make any new ones. And I started shutting down shop. And I stopped caring about how other people would feel when I said no, because I knew there was something much deeper going on. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to serve powerfully anyway. So I needed to be able to do that. That was also a big transition moment. Everything I'm sharing with you took place over the course of really years. Just so you know, it was really stretched out.
Yeah, that's so valuable that you're sharing that, because I think for anyone listening, and for me included, like, I think in my own life, I've definitely gone through these aha moments. I've gone through career changes or decisions that I'm like pivotal moments in my life where I wanted to move in a different direction. So we sort of have these expectations that once we've made that decision, everything's going to go smoothly. Like, we've made this decision and now our life is just going to fall into place. Our abundance is just going to come showering down. We're not going to get any more obstacles. Our marriage is going to be amazing in this authentic new truth. But the reality of the situation, it doesn't work that way. It's like a messy stage of growth. Like, we can have a wonderful day of vulnerability, authenticity, of living our highest self one day, and then, I guess I'm speaking for me, and let me know if this is true, the next day can be horrible, could be a living hell. Like, we find ourselves falling back into older patterns, and we don't have all the vision that we had the day before. And this evolvement is not an easy, smooth one. It's messy. And that doesn't mean it's the wrong path necessarily. It just means that's the direction to get out of the mess, is through more mess. And it's not going to be beautiful every day. Does that resonate with you? Does that sound right?
100%. I mean, I think I've yet to meet someone whose journey is linear. It's always ups and downs like that. I think one cautionary tale that can come out of my story is that I don't think it did have to take quite as long as it did for me, for two reasons. One is, if you're able to give yourself permission to really feel what you're feeling, I do think you'll get clarity faster. It's more painful, but it's a faster way of getting there. And the second is, in a world where we're habituated to hustling, and the harder I work, the more success I'm going to have, there's this counterintuitive truth where if you slow down to speed up, you're going to be far faster on your journey. So had I been able to really slow down what was going on for me, really step into like a space of like, let me really look at this for a minute here, like, and I would have needed someone again to disrupt my thinking a little bit, because there was no way I could have done it on my own. But having that ability to slow down and be strategic will help you work smart instead of work hard. So there are these kinds of learnings that I picked up along the way, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm today in this moment on a continuum of self-actualization and authenticity. I'm not where I want to be. I won't be where I want to be for a long time. I think now what I can do is celebrate all my breakthroughs that I've made to get here, and to look back. People make this mistake of like, look how far I have to go. But if you can look back and see how far you've come, it's a much different feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And hearing your story also, I think, gives a tremendous amount of hope to people that are further behind on their journey or not there yet, that they should keep going, because it may be dark right now, but there is this continuum, as you talk about it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, even getting to a place where I was able to be invested in creating an image, that took the first 20 something years of my life to get to there. I'm going to make a moment for myself to appreciate even the first 20 years of my life was spent doing the whole child thing. I was rebellious as a teenager. I was anti-authority, like all that stuff. I didn't know where my life was going to take me. So getting to a place at 20 years old and being able to say, I want to live a life of goodness, of creating something beautiful, and of inspiring others to do the same. That deserves an applause. And it's okay that it took me another 20 years. I'm saying the same thing I said at 20, where I'm saying, like, I want to create a life of goodness and I want to inspire others to do the same. I'm saying the same thing I did 20, years ago. But the difference is I'm in a place now where I'm much more invested in me showing up to this. And I'm much more powerful as a result of that.
Wow. And I'm assuming that the people you've been able to help because of that has been exponential.
100%.
Can you share a little bit about that with us, about your world and helping people and some examples of what you've been able to accomplish? I'd love to.
Okay, so I told you that there's two reasons someone comes to me. They either have a big vision that they're really excited about fulfilling, and they're like a leader in their own right in some area, and they really just want to actualize in that space, or they're really struggling with something, like they are having a real problem in their lives, or they're stuck in a rut and it's deep and it's hard and they want to get out of it. But the truth is, in both cases, it's very similar, because your life as you know it today, it means it doesn't fit you. You have a feeling like it doesn't fit you. And now that you've heard my whole story, you know that I know that feeling quite well.
Yes.
But that your life doesn't fit you, because I'm not meant to be walking around feeling low energy and being dependent on physical vices, or I'm not meant to be living a life where I'm miserable because my husband said something hurtful and we're just in this bad space. I know we're good people. Or I'm not meant to be having these financial struggles for my whole life, and that's the same feeling as I am meant for greatness. I want my business to have scalability. I want my message to have impact. So the types of people I support are everyone from motivational speakers and business owners and think people of that nature, to a place of, I know I'm brilliant. I know I'm powerful. I don't feel like I have my life together. I need help. And so a couple of stories that I can share with you. One of them I put on Facebook and I just told you about is a woman, an incredible woman who she was widowed and left with 2 young children. And it was a very painful time. When she came to me, she really wanted to, as she put it, create her husband. So just so that's clear for you all, like, that means that she was in a space of being able to say, I know that my mind creates my life. So many people don't see that. And that's such an important, revelation. You create your life.
So to clarify, she was looking to find a husband.
Love, a husband, yeah.
And you helped her visualize what that looked like for her, so to speak.
Yeah, I helped her create, in the sense that we were able to burn through any resistance that she may have had, which means that you have to be able to identify the resistance properly. It's so often the story that I hear from the client at first is not really the resistance that needs to be addressed. It's like the cover story. Right. And we needed to really crystallize what she wanted, that she really wanted, not what she thought she wanted, but what she really wanted, so that she was able to then invite that into her life. And what was cool about it is, like we described earlier, you said, there are days when you feel so clear and there are days when you feel like everything's just terrible. But what's great about that process when you're working with someone is that's the time that you can test what's going on here. So like on the day that you're struggling, let's really look at that. That shows that there's that's a moment of opportunity and invitation, where you're not integrating everything you know and everything you feel and everything you're doing. That's a lack of alignment. That gives me an opportunity to say, oh, let's look at this. Where's the disconnect? Where's the lack of alignment? Let's see how we can get you more aligned. And that way, when you hit the ground running the next day, you're that much faster, that much stronger, that much more powerful. She was part of my 90-day breakthrough program. She ended up working with me for 2 90-day breakthrough programs. But before the second one finished, within 5 months of working together, she was engaged.
Wow.
So it was an incredible moment for both of us. And she sometimes includes me in her posts with her fiance, because it feels like this, it feels like a co-creation when you're talking to someone and working with someone. And I have to tell you, it's a huge byproduct, like benefit of the job. Every time I'm supporting the healing of someone else, I'm healing myself.
Yeah. That's amazing that your work can be self-healing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's amazing about her was that she could have easily gone into victim mode. You know, she could have said, life's not dealt me a fair hand. My husband died young and unexpectedly. He was very healthy. But that as soon as we see ourselves getting into a space of like feeling like a victim, we've just relinquished power to creating our future, you know?
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. And I think that it's such a powerful message for everybody listening, is that on those days when we feel like, taking it back to myself, those days when I feel like I don't have clarity, things are not working out, my parenting is not where it needs to be, my relationship may not be where it needs to be, my acts of service for the community may not be where I want it to be. Instead of running away, or instead of saying tomorrow is going to be a better day, but to actually utilize that feeling and use it in my favor, to to say, okay, take this day and let's analyze it. Let's look at it. What about this day is making me feel this way? Where is this coming from, to help me propel me on that journey? So it's not a natural instinct. I think many of us do the opposite. When we feel this way, we want to take a Band-Aid and cover it up. Let me take a glass of wine. Let me take a bubble bath. Let me go get a manicure, which all those things are great, and go for it. But that's not really what's going to help the situation. What's going to help it is to dig deeper into that moment. I'm assuming it helps when you have a coach that works you through it. But
it's obviously a huge bonus to have someone who helps you. But I would say that like bubble baths and manicures are a great example of masking pain.
Yeah.
And again, I love bubble baths and manicures as much as the next girl. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I'm all about it. But I don't think that, as long as you don't use it as okay, this is the distraction I want because I don't want to deal with this. Look, I mean, you're not going to be, it's okay to not be ready to have a conversation about how can I leverage my pain to my power. That's okay. Like, I get that. Right. But I do think we need to be willing to feel our pain. I think step one, when you're in the mess, when you're in the trenches and it's all happening, let yourself feel, like you said, like feel the suck. Like, let yourself really feel that pain deeply. So like, for example, you and your husband, let's say, you know, had a terrible fight, hurtful words were said. Instead of running out or getting that manicure or pouring yourself that glass of wine, before that, I mean, don't not do that if that's what you want, but before that, let yourself feel how hurtful it was. Let yourself really, really feel it, and not from a place of victim, but from a place of how, like, I created this hurt. I created this hurt. And this is a really hard thing to say in 2021, saying something like that can be highly controversial because you don't want to be accused of victim blaming, right? Like, no one wants to be accused of victim blaming, but the way I work and the way I support clients and the way I am my own best client is I never see myself as a victim. I am never the victim. I'm always drawing in and inviting whatever is happening here. There's always something here for me to learn from and see. So if I'm going into victim mode, then how can I possibly create what I want? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. Victim mode. And also, I mean, your words are resonating in the sense that I caused this pain, or if I didn't fully cause it, I definitely was an active participant in this pain that has been caused. And anything that I'm an active participant in, I need to be able to own it so that I can ensure that something like that does not happen again. So that is.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's in the physical realm. I think on a deep, deep level, I think that we actually invite in on a very deep soul kind of level, we invite in that pain, and the world mirrors how we feel about ourselves, what we think we deserve. So, for example, a woman came to me, her husband had been abusive for many years, and she was done, and she was ready to get a divorce. And I said to her, I was blown away. She'd been married for 22 years. She had 4 kids. I said, oh no, she'd been married 18 years. I'm getting the numbers confused. She'd been married 18 years. She had 4 kids. I asked her, I was so fascinated with her. I said, what makes you come to me today? What made you decide that you were ready to get a divorce now after 18 years of marriage? And she said, I'll tell you, I was in the hospital. He had beaten me. And I saw a photograph that they took of me, of my face. And that's where I got the number 22 stitches.
Oh my God.
Face was completely mangled. And in that moment, I saw that I'm better than that. I'm worth more than that. And her ability to see that she was worth more than that picture, it was a moment, it was an aha moment of clarity for her, because up until that point, she didn't think she was worth more. So it's not a matter of like blaming the victim. It's a matter of taking responsibility that you are going to seek out understanding how great you are, how powerful you are, because if you're able to do that, you can invite in greatness into your life. And if you're not, you're going to not invite greatness into your life.
Yeah. Because I'm extremely, right now, I've got 2 lovely teenagers in my world, and I've got 5 kids altogether. I'm hearing you talk about how you interact with your clients, and I'm realizing that also all those principles hold true for parenting as well. We give these huge lessons over to our children, that our circumstances do not define us, that we can't blame the world for our situation, in the sense that we may not have control over things that are happening to us. We may not have control over the teacher that we don't like, or the fact that we don't have everything that we want at that given moment. But we do have control over the way we respond, we deal with it. We are not a victim. We can take the power to create our reality. I think if we teach our kids this as parents, at a young age, at this pivotal age, when they're just starting to learn about their outside environment, and instead of like, it's their fault and they did this and that whole like blame mentality, I think would have so many less issues going into adulthood with all of this as well. So it's just giving me so many great nuggets of how I want to translate that over to my kids as well.
Yeah, I absolutely, 100%. I mean, this has shaped my view of parenting so much. I think that the adults that come to me and are feeling limited, like they just want more success, more love, more happiness, more wellness. And it's very often, if not always, linked to how loved and protected you can love and protect your kids and never let them know how powerful they are. And in fact, your love and protection could be on some level how they see the barrier of how powerful they are. So for example, if your mother showed her love by always making sure you didn't have to do, you didn't have to do anything basically, and like setting the bar low, but she meant it as a place of love, like, oh honey, I'll take care of it, I love you. So you're going to grow up thinking love means not taking responsibility. Loving myself means I don't have to do everything. And so I was just talking to someone actually yesterday, and I did this Facebook Live. I was live coaching someone on my page. You can take a look. But he was saying like he had struggled up until the time he was about 30 years old with never finishing anything. He would vacuum but not finish it, eat but not finish his plate. And it turned out he was like now struggling, or he had been struggling in his business with fear around being consistent and not being able to have breakthroughs in his business because he was worried he would be inconsistent. And I helped him draw out in the story, and you can see it there, that the love and protection he was offered as a kid didn't allow for a bar to be raised and say, you are that powerful. You can go out and do whatever you want and invite whatever you want into your life. So it doesn't invite. So we have to be really careful as parents to balance a place of, loving and protecting, but saying you are so powerful. I have so much faith in you. And that's why my bar is really high. That's why I know you're going to be able to handle that kid on the playground lot.
Right.
And I'm trust me, I I am someone who gets involved with my kids probably far too much, but being able to look my kid in the eye and say to them, you are that powerful, you can do this, I think is a much bigger gift than me even, potentially than me even giving them any kind of protection.
We're empowering them.
Yes.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Wow. So our time is getting, or we're dwindling. And Rachel, I could talk to you and we can go in so many different directions. This is amazing. I feel like I can talk to you all day long. But just so we can start wrapping up and making this into a beautiful picture. So the title, The Powerful You Distilled and Undiluted. The tools that you've learned on your journey about being authentic, being your own, getting into your own power, not playing the victim, all of these lessons that you've learned along the way, how would you say has helped you show up as the powerful you? Can you give like then and the now and how you see that plays out in your life?
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, the before picture I've already described. I was, even before like the darkness set in, I was exhausted. Time was scarce. I was on a treadmill running in my life. I didn't have a moment to myself. I felt like I was a victim of not having the ability to say I could control my time, that I could do what I wanted. I would often say things like, I really can't meet you for a cup of coffee, like a friend, because I'm too busy doing X, Y, and Z. Like I wouldn't be caught dead saying something like that now because I own my time so much more. So my before picture was an exhausted woman who was trying so hard. And I really honor that person inside of me who was trying so hard and working so hard. And yet feeling so frustrated, like banging against a wall every time that I wasn't having the closeness in my marriage that I wanted and the success that I wanted in how I was reaching people and how I was supporting transformation and my own wellness. And the picture now is I have quit all my jobs. I don't work for any organization anymore. I'm not for hire. That's just not my paradigm anymore. I make offerings. And if someone wants to join a group program or a one-on-one or whatever it is that I'm offering into the world, they're invited. And if they don't, that's also okay. And so I have this real sense of ownership over my life. And I'm a God-fearing woman. I have every, acknowledgement that God is the one who's showing me the abundance. The difference now is that I feel like all I need to do is ask. It's not God who's been having this grasp on the fountain of abundance. It's me. And if I just let go, then God is ready to pour it in. If I just let myself let go and expand and show up powerfully, then God is going to be ready to just invite all these great things, into the world with me. So that's the before and after picture, essentially. And I think when people say something like, and I've heard this from someone else as well, if someone says, I want what you have, I wish I was you. I wish I could just quit my job. That sounds so nice. I wish my husband was like yours. I wish he would just blah, 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 blah. They don't really want to be me. They want to show up as powerfully them. And they just haven't yet been able to do that.
Wow. And your business, so to speak, you are allowing or helping or enabling other people to see their own true power and basically being a guiding light to help them achieve all that abundance, love, all that they want in their world that's missing. You sort of guide them on that journey.
Yeah. And I mean, you came to that workshop that I did, the breakthrough workshop. Yeah. And the 3 themes of it was, theme number 1 was the powerful you. And we don't really appreciate how powerful we are. Someone listening to this right now could be saying, yeah, Shifra's really powerful. I see all the moves she makes in the world. I know how great she is, but I'm not. And this person has no idea that if I was to speak with them or you were to speak with them, drawing out their story, they are actually far more powerful than they know. And I'll just sort of maybe a nice thing to do is to end with that, which is those 3 steps is connecting with your power, being able to burn through the resistance, identify and burn through the story you're telling yourself is a huge piece of it. because so often we're ready to receive and we don't know why it's not happening yet. Like, why am I feeling good?
I'm waiting.
Yes. But
Yeah.
really we're putting up a story or a barrier in the way. So being able to identify that and burn through it. And then consistency, giving the process space to breathe. Let the process breathe. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to feel lack of clarity. That means that it'll give me an excuse to strive and work and seek, truth and show up more. It means a breakthrough is coming because I feel that friction. So that consistency. So those 3 steps are really powerful in creating the life that we want.
Beautiful. Okay, so I think that those 3 steps are a huge take home that we can give everyone. Like, I love ending our little conversations. It's like, if there was one take home message that you want to send off as like a goodbye gift, as a goodbye kiss to our listeners, what would that be? So would you say that those 3 those 3 points of what we discussed at the breakthrough workshop would be that gift?
I would say if I was going to give your listeners one gift, it would be the image that I shared in that workshop where we work. So there's a pie chart. We think that and the pie chart is like completely filled with hard work. We think if we just work really hard, we're going to get what we want. But that paradigm is actually totally a misnomer around like hustle culture that we have today. And the truth is that the pie chart that we really need are a combination of slowing down to speed up, so that we can get the support. I guess slowing down to speed up is the big mantra. Slow down to speed up, get the support I need, reflect on what like strategy, community, all those pieces are so much more important than hustle. Working hard has a place, but it has to be in a bigger context.
Yeah. Has to be done with a vision.
Yeah. So I think slow down to speed up is a big mantra to walk away from.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Rachel.
Great.
So I want to end off this evening at 8 p.m. You can join us on Facebook Live. We're going to premiere this again, so you can tell your friends if you know of anyone who you think will benefit from listening to this conversation. Please share with them. You can tell them to just come up or like the Spark Facebook page, and you'll see it there. And then I'll be sharing it on my own personal feed, and I'm sure Rachel will be sharing it on her feed as well. In those comments, I will also share with you Rachel's contact information if you want to discuss with her further, if you want to, have a one-on-one conversation, if you just want to ask her about what she offers, anything at all. We'll put all her information in the, you can find it on Facebook at any point. You can come on and we'll have all her contact info.
And I have daily emails. So if anyone wants to sign up on thiswaytoeden.com, I do daily emails of inspiration and thought-provoking ideas for anybody who wants.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll just say it's This Way to Eden, and you can sign up, and Rachel will be sending you her emails as well. Thank you all for joining, Rachel. This was amazing.
Thank you. This is great.
I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, everybody. Take care.